Well, I'm going to begin because I know I haven't got too long today, but I really enjoyed the movie. I'm just wondering what it was that initially attracted you to getting involved in Scoob.
Well, weirdly, I got an email from my voiceover agent. And he goes, Warner Brothers have decided to offer you something in their new film, Scoob. And I thought, I'm doing it. I didn't go any further than that. And not because of Scooby-Doo. I didn't even realize it was Scooby-Doo, but because that's what we call my daughter. My 14-year-old daughter is called Ruby, and we called her Scooby from when she was born. And almost instantly that turned into Scoob. So she's been Scoob for 14 years. And they went, you've offered a part in Scoob. And I thought, I'm in. That's fate. And then I read on, and they went, it's the new 21st century feature animated version of Scooby-Doo. They've offered you Dick Dastardly. And I thought, that can't be. It can't be right. That's just too good to believe. It's not possible. Well, what about the Dick Dastardly that been around forever? And then I met them and spoke to them. And of course, Dick has been completely reinvented. He's now a huge Dick Dastardly, and the story was kind of fresh and new. And so, what attracted me? What wouldn't attract you to doing that?
Yeah, I mean, because
when I kept me away is the question.
When I was growing up, I loved Scooby-Doo so much, and now obviously what I love about this film coming out now is a whole new generation are going to be witness to it. What is it about this character, this world, that has just given it such a timeless quality?
Do you know, it's a perfectly valid question to ask, and I'll answer it maybe in a second. But it reminds me of the times I've been asked, what makes Harry Potter work? And, I've got an answer. All the actors, everybody's got an answer. Even Joe's got an answer. But the real answer is that nobody knows what makes something work and last for 60 years. If they did, they'd bottle it and then they'd do it over and over again. So something works in it. I mean, all shows are about family. Every television show, every movie, everything, no matter how big a scale it is, even Saving Private Ryan is about that group of people traveling together. They're all about relationships. Well, this is the quintessential family with all the archetypes represented in Mystery Inc. And so maybe it's that. Maybe it's because we all love dogs. Maybe it's something you can't put your finger. It's alchemy. Who knows why it works? But it does.
Because I was reading, I mean, this could be the start of like a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. I mean, is Dick Dastardly a role that you'd be quite keen to reprise again, perhaps?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I had enormously good fun. First of all, he's this like sensationally over-the-top character, massive narcissist, and incredibly grandiose and self-serving and self-centered, with a desperate need for approval and applause. He's his own best audience. So there are certainly some role models out there in the world to look to for that. And secondly, the job when you're actually recording it is to make the director laugh, because you don't meet the other actors. So Tony Savonin, the brilliant writer-director, is in the booth with you, and he's just encouraging me. I start from over the top and climb from there, encouraging me to improvise like crazy and to make him laugh. If you can get him snorting with double snot, then that's a bullseye. That's going to be in the take that's used. But really, there's nothing that wasn't fun about all of it. Forever. So would I do it again? In a heartbeat, I'd do it again.
I like talking about Hanna-Barbera because I only found out about 3 years ago that it wasn't a little old woman called Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
I thought it was a woman.
Too. I grew up watching them. I assumed there was Hannah just making a little drawing here, bunny. No, I don't know who's the rest. Who the other characters are in the universe. Blue Falcon and Dynomutt, for instance, which other people younger than me seem to know well. I didn't know that Mark Wahlberg and Ken Jeong played. But yeah, there's a bunch of others to be wheeled out. I, of course, hope that if we do it again, Dick's in it again. But at least I've got to do it once.
Yeah. So when you're voicing a role like Dick Dastardly, is it quite tough to find a balance where you want to inject your own sensibilities into the role and very much stamp your own take on the character, but at the same time, it's got to maintain the kind of essence of the role that you grew up sort of watching as well? Is that quite tough to make it your own and yet also make it very familiar?
It would have done if that was the brief. I think if I was trying to somehow channel the Dick Dastardly of old, I think that would have been very difficult. But I wasn't. And they'd redrawn him, they reinvented him. We did a different voice. I mean, I'm not that good a mimic. I could probably have approximated what he used to sound like. We decided not to do that. There was no point hiring me if that's what they wanted. We went back to the role model originally, which was Terry Thomas in The Great Race. So we made him English because that's hammier, and he's the biggest ham that ever lived because he's playing to a crowd. He's playing to an audience all the time. No, I didn't feel the weight of any of that. Remember, a couple of times before I've done things where, had I allowed any of that in, it would have been a crippling weight. So playing a captain in Star Trek, if I was thinking to myself, well, I have to channel a bit of Picard and a little bit of Captain Kirk and stuff, There's no way I'd get out of makeup. I'd be found, whimpering underneath, curled up in a ball. So I didn't feel any pressure to do anything. I just felt pressure to make Tony laugh.
I know you mentioned obviously that it is quite an isolated experience doing voiceover work, but did you get to spend any time with the rest of the cast? Or was it literally you just went in there on your own, did it, and went back again?
We're in different countries at different times. Yeah, I didn't get to meet any of them. In fact, it so happens I overlapped one time just by accident with Zac Efron, who I had met, who 10 years before I'd met for 10 seconds, and I'd completely press ganged him into making a little video for Mark Kermode. Because Mark has always gone on about how much he likes him and how much he respects him, thinks he's an all-round actor. I went, look into the camera and just say, oh, hi, Mark, how are you? And Paul, there's this terrible video of him utterly startled and kind of sideswiped. Anyway, I managed to explain to him when I saw him this time who Mark is and how much he liked him and why he respected him. And he went, oh, it's this mystery of 10 years long had been solved for him. But the others I didn't meet. I was looking forward to meeting them on various red carpets around the world as we publicized the movie, but that was not to be. And although I feel a little bit sorry for myself, there are many, many reasons to be grateful at the moment, and other people have worse things happening to them.
Mm. And talking of other great actors out there, I saw yesterday, obviously, you came out in praise of the brilliant Thandie Newton interview that's obviously everyone's been talking about because she's just so refreshing and so honest. How great was that to read for you, to read someone just speak like that to the press and be that kind of candid about their experiences?
I know Thandie, and actors talk like that to each other all the time. We all have a billion stories. You just generally don't share it with the press. And Thandie felt she got to a point, and there was, a movement afoot in the world to address the imbalance, and racial prejudice and various other things. And she's got to a point of confidence in her career where she thought, you know what, I'm going to tell some stories out of school and let people know what my life has been like, and provides a lot of comfort and support for many other people who go, wow, that's similar things have happened to me, and also to be part of helping to make sure that they don't happen again to other people. So hats off to her. It was incredibly ballsy that she did it. But it's not, knowing her, it's not a surprise she should do something as ballsy as that.
Yeah, because I wanted to say it was, I was sort of surprised by what she said, but sadly I wasn't surprised to hear about what she sort of been through.
None of the stories are surprising. It's just surprising that anyone is prepared to air them in public, or prepared to, put their head up above the parapet like that, and God bless her for doing it.
Yeah, because in this kind of break from the kind of film world that we've had due to kind of the lockdown and stuff, I do feel like that maybe it's the fact that there's been kind of the lingering kind of fear of death has been quite prevalent in the news and stuff, but it feels like people are feeling a bit more like just it, I am just going to say how I feel now, and we are confronting issues. Are you anticipating a slightly different film industry we might go back to when this is said and done? Maybe with
the film industry is only one small part of the spectrum. How are we all going to be with each other? Is something more generous, is something more equitable going to emerge financially in terms of how society divides up our money? Will it be concentrated in the hands of so few people? Will we have fairer ways of dealing with each other? Will we tell stories in a fairer way? And who knows? At the moment, I find it so... I'm a bit of a catastrophist, so I'm not the right person to look to for an optimistic message. I hope that things turn out better, both in the film industry. I hope that, I'd like to think we can eradicate racism, prejudice, misogyny, and the hidden financial inequalities, and right the justice system. If you ask me what I really think about any of those things, I have a pretty dark picture of human nature and what emerges from crises generally. But it doesn't matter what I think, it's what I work for and what actions I take. And I'll do whatever I can to try and make things better. At the moment, I can't imagine going back to work. Some people are, but film sets are this labyrinth of unbelievably complicated protocols and houses of cards that could fall down with the slightest puff. So I'm thrilled that I'm not one of the first guinea pigs going back to work soon.
Just very quickly then, before I go, I was wondering, in regards to your lockdown, I interviewed David Fulis recently, and he said he's getting into cooking. And I interviewed Ingvar Sigurdsson, this Icelandic actor, the other day, who's learned the accordion. I was just wondering if you've picked up any skills or...
Bloody David. I knew it. I did Dragonaut. I've worked with David a few times. The first time I worked with him, he had a keyboard, he was making art, he was making installations, he was doing poetry, he was writing a script. I can't believe it. No, I'm not one of those people that has achieved achieved anything at all. I've done everything I'm asked. I've been of service when I can to the various different charities that I do. I'm of service to my wife and kids, and I've achieved almost nothing whatsoever. I'm finding it. I've been treading water emotionally and intellectually and artistically. And here's for the non-achievers in life. We must band together and do nothing together.
Brilliant. On that note, thank you so much for your time today, Jason. Been a real pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Lovely to talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!